And Brandon, we are going to move on into our last topic of the podcast, where we're going to make some mid-season playoff predictions for the college football playoffs this season. And I'll be honest, this was tough.
This was hard.
This was hard.
And I still don't even feel good about it. I don't at all.
Brandon wants to flip-flop back and forth like a swing state in the election, basically. He wants to go one side, then the other side. But here's how we're going to do it. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, it's just going to be audio. I'm going to apologize for that up front. It's just the nature of the beast. If you are on YouTube, though, listening to the segment, you're going to see a little bit of graphics. And the first two are going to be our playoffs that we had at the beginning of the year. And I'll just announce those really quick. And then me and Brandon will both go into our individual predictions for the midseason. And just to get it started, so you guys know where we were coming from, here's what we had at the beginning of the season. My playoff prediction in the offseason was I had Clemson going up against Ole Miss on one side. Yeah, I know. I picked Ole Miss. You guys can laugh away. And then I had Michigan and Houston on the other. Two of those teams are still in the thick of things. The other two, not so much. And I believe I had Michigan and Clemson in my title game, with Michigan winning it all. Brandon's bracket in the offseason was he had Florida State playing Michigan on one side, and on the other side, you had a rematch of the national title game between Clemson and Alabama. And I want to say you had Clemson and Florida State meeting in the championship game, but we'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
I think I did.
We'll give you the benefit of the doubt with hindsight and say you said Michigan, Alabama, because that's what you really meant to say. But
sure.
Now we are going to go into our predictions, the ones that took us forever to come up with, guys.
It did. And you're going to go, it took you a long time to come up with this garbage, but hey, it's tough.
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't want to, A, I didn't want to, and B, I don't believe that it's going to be Alabama, Michigan, Clemson, Washington.
Yeah, I agree.
A, I didn't want to do it. B, I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
So I wasn't going to give you guys that kind of garbage as well. You guys can read rankings as of right now for yourself. But B, we're going to start with you. Take us through what you have for your playoff rankings. Take us through who you got, your number 1 through your number 4, then who's going to win each matchup, meet in the title game, and win it all.
All right, well, here it goes. So 1 through 4, I've got Alabama, Michigan, Clemson, Louisville. And then I've got Alabama going against Louisville, Michigan going against Clemson. So now you're all going, you dumbass. Why do you have 2 ACCs in there? Well, I don't think that Washington's going to go undefeated, and I don't think that they'll end up winning the Pac-12. I think that it'll probably be Utah, but I think that it's not going to be a Pac-12 team in the playoff. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be a Big 12 team because they're going to have co-champions, and really no one wants to have a Big 12 team in the playoff. It's not going to be another SEC team because I just think that when you take a look at it, there's too many other good matchups, I think, for teams to have 1 or 2 losses and not be close enough to the top 4 to be able to be in there. The only other team that I think really I feel makes sense is Louisville. I look at the rest of their schedule and I see them winning out. I think that this is a team that is right there, right on the cusp. And if and when Washington loses, Louisville will be inserted up there. Again, I don't really know if any of this is going to happen, and most likely and probably will not. But I didn't want. I was like you, Ricky. I did not want to keep all 4 teams there. I thought that was boring. I don't think it's going to happen like that. There's too many weeks left in college football for it to work out exactly and as cleanly as it is right now there
Plus,
at the top.
we know the committee never does exactly what the AP polls are thinking.
No, and the committee never does anything that you're thinking that they'll do. So this is what I've got. Again, Alabama, Louisville, Michigan, and Clemson.
Who you got winning? Who you got winning from each side, and then who you got winning out of the two champion teams?
I've got Alabama beating Louisville. I've got Michigan beating Clemson. Alabama, Michigan, Alabama repeats.
So you're going to go with the repeat for the Crimson Tide over Jim Harbaugh.
That would I think be a really good matchup.
Oh, that'd be the best title game.
It'd be two great defenses. Whose offense is going to be better? I think that would be awesome.
Then you know what else would be another storyline that people would throw into that national title game? You've got the guy who loved satellite camps in the offseason, the guy who despised it. You've got milk and steak on one side, whatever Nick Saban likes to drink and eat on the other side. But it'd be I think that'd be a great national title game. And I'd be hard-pressed to find someone who wouldn't want to watch that matchup. We're going to go into mine now. And mine's a little bit different where, yes, I have Bama and Michigan 1-2. But I got Bama playing the 4-seeded Nebraska Cornhuskers and Michigan playing the 2-seeded Louisville Cardinals. And you might be saying, well, Ricky, yours are worse than Brandon. Get the fuck out of here. And I'm going to defend myself a little bit because as Brandon knows, and most of you who listen to the Primetime Podcast or Most Valuable Podcast know, I'm an overthinker. I like to get into the nitty-gritty and just pull back the curtains and get into every thinking scenario that could happen. I'm going to give you guys a detailed scenario of what will happen. And I'm going to start with the ACC because you might be asking, where the fuck is Clemson? And how it's going to work, they're going to lose this week to Florida State on the road. That'll give them one loss. They'll win out. They'll have the tiebreaker over Louisville. They will go to the ACC championship game. They will play North Carolina and lose to North Carolina on a 50-plus yard field goal from the kicker, who we know he can hit them. He's hit them before this year, and Clemson will be heartbroken. Because of that, the ACC will be in some interesting times. And you might be saying, well, Ricky, what about the Big 12? They might be the next team to step up. Well, guess what? I'm not going to root for Oklahoma because I said they weren't going to make it in the preseason. And then you got Baylor and West Virginia. Yeah, West Virginia to me has, out of the three, they're the one I put my money on to go undefeated, but they won't. These three teams will beat each other up. We're going to have co-champions. They're not even going to make the college football playoff. Then I look at the Pac-12, and I think what's going to happen is Washington will win out the regular season. They will go into the Pac-12 title game undefeated. Because they beat Washington in Week 10, that would mean Colorado would step up and play Washington in the Pac-12 title game because I think they will win out. Colorado, a team that played Michigan tough, could have beaten Michigan, probably should have beaten Michigan. They're going to get the win over Washington and upset the Huskies. So you're sitting there going, whoa, the Pac-12, the Big 12 are out. The ACC is out. We got to fill two spots. And the next two best teams are going to be Louisville because they're just going to sit there after winning out in the regular season. And then you're going to look around and you're going to look at the SEC and you're going to go, well, we don't really have a second place team that we can take from there because, yeah, Florida's going to have one loss, but they're not going to be that quality of a team. Then you look at the Big Ten. You go, oh, Michigan just played a really close game against the Cornhuskers. We will take them. They get the bid. And that's how I came up with my college football playoff. So Bama, Nebraska, Michigan, Louisville. I think Bama easily handles the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I think Michigan, Louisville, an interesting game. I would love the outcome no matter who it was. But at this point, I am going to agree with Brandon and pick the Wolverines. However, in the Saban-Harbaugh matchup, I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to say Michigan hoists the national championship trophy, or as Phyllis from Mulga would say, the national trophy. And Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines are your national champion at the end of the year. That's just the way I see it. That's how I got it going.
Well, we're probably both extremely wrong. But hey, you know what? It was fun, huh?
It was easier in the preseason. We had a lot more teams to play with.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. It is really difficult now.
And the one thing you might be saying is, Ricky, well, why did you pick Nebraska over Ohio State? Ohio State's going to have 2 losses if this happens, because Michigan's going to have to beat them, and Nebraska would only have 1 because they would have to win out to get to that Big Ten title game before losing to Michigan. But before I wrap everything up, before we get to Swanee's final minutes, is there anything else that you want to get to with these predictions?
No, I don't want anything else to do with these predictions because
Okay.
they're probably so wrong.
I got one thing I want to bring up. One thing, and this is a scenario I brought up to Brandon. I almost put it in my prediction, and I want to bring it up because I want to hear what people think. The unthinkable could happen this season. The unthinkable. The way Auburn has it right now, they have 1 loss in conference play. They could beat Ole Miss. They could beat Vanderbilt. They could beat Georgia. Easily beat Alabama A&M. Get them out of here. If they could win those games and then go into Alabama and upset the Crimson Tide, they could get a bid into the SEC title game, win that game, and possibly get into the college football playoff. I'm throwing out there because I want to hear what you guys think with this situation. I think it could happen. Ole Miss hasn't been good. Georgia's kind of been low. Vanderbilt's not that good of a team. The only thing for me is can Auburn have a type of game against Alabama that they had with that field goal return that went 100 and some yards all the way back for a touchdown as time expired? That is something that I mentioned to Brandon. I'm like, do I go with the unthinkable here? Do I go a little bit of a Mad Hatter situation going on? No pun intended, because Les Miles used to be in the SEC. But I want to know what you guys have to think on that one. Before we wrap up the entire podcast, though, it is that time of the show where I hand it over to Brandon Swanson for Swanee's final thoughts.
Well, folks, I don't know if you've been watching, but the Chicago Cubs are going to the World Series for the first time
Cubs.
since 1945, and they're trying to look for their first World Series win for the first time since 1908. So I think that this is really exciting. It's great for the city of Chicago. I'm a White Sox fan, but I really am excited for the Cubs. And I think that this is a really fun time to be a Chicagoan. I think this is a really fun time just to be able to see a city come together in a time when there's so much division and divide over politics and religion and ideologies. I think that this is something that's able to bring everyone together in a city that is an outstanding, amazing city, best city in the world. And I think that this is exciting, and this is a time to be alive. It really is. And I think that one of the reasons why I'm so excited for the Cubs is I am really excited for those fans who have been waiting since they were little kids. You know, years and years, when, you know, back in 1908, they've been waiting since then, and they still alive, some of them. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that it's really exciting. And I'm so excited, and, you know, kind of gives me the chills to see some of these fans, these older fans that just absolutely get so excited and are so happy to be a part of it. And, you know, and then for the fans that can't be here today, you know, the ones that were always diehard Cub fans, but, you know, they're, you know, ended too soon, or they just couldn't hang on for another 100 years. I'm excited for them, and I think that this is a fun time. And make sure you check out the video that Ricky Widmer and myself will be doing. We're going to be putting that up within the next couple of days, so be looking for that. We're doing a joint video together, Cubs-Indians World Series preview. And it's going to be a good one. It's two teams that have been winning all season long. For the Cleveland Indians, I don't know how. But for the Chicago Cubs, we have seen how good they've been and what a good farm system Theo and the crew came up with. So I just got to say, go Cubs, go.
This had to be how Boston felt, right? This had to be how Boston felt. Because, Brandon, I will say, for those of you who don't know, I am the Cub fan in the room, and I am both ecstatic and nervous. And I'm going to tell a little story before we wrap this off. Today, as I was at work, I got an email from the Cubs website basically saying, hey, get all your playoff gear for the World Series. And let's just say I might be spending a ton of money on World Series hats, World Series hoodies, World Series T-shirts, because I don't know when the next time my team is going to be back. So I may take a little bit of hit to the wallet so that I can buy a ton of World Series swag. But that's going to do it for the Primetime Podcast this week. I want to thank you guys for checking out the show. You can go ahead and follow us on Twitter. Those are in the description down below. Let us know what you think in the comment section. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, hit that follow button. Also, let us know on Blog Talk Radio what you guys think as well. Go check out our Patreon page. Most important part, if you love the podcast, want to support us a little bit more than hitting that follow and subscribe button, we want to do cool things like get little lava mics for our shirts so that we can do our videos without the big microphones in front of our face. So check out that, patreon.com/most valuable podcast. I want to thank you guys for checking out the show. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this MVP podcast. Follow us on Twitter @MostValuablePod for more great podcasts.